Listen to me. There comes a moment in your life when the greatest betrayal is not what someone does to you. It's what you keep allowing. Some people will disrespect you because you taught them they could. Some people will cross every line because you never drew one. And the hardest truth of all, sometimes the people who hurt you share your last name. Blood is powerful, but blood is not permission. Family is important, but family is not an excuse for abuse. If someone constantly destroys your peace, your confidence, your purpose, your dignity, you are not honoring love by staying silent. You are abandoning yourself. Stop believing that love means accepting everything. It doesn't. Real love protects. Real love respects. Real love never demands that you destroy yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Today, that cycle ends. Life has a way of teaching painful lessons. Sometimes those lessons don't come from strangers. They come from the people you expected to protect you. The ones whose approval you chased. The ones whose words became the voices inside your own mind. For years, you may have accepted insults because you called it family. You accepted manipulation because you called it love. You accepted disrespect because you feared rejection. But purpose cannot grow where disrespect lives. Peace cannot survive where fear rules. God did not create you to spend your life shrinking so others could feel bigger. He created you with dignity, with value, with purpose. There is a difference between honoring people and allowing them to break you. One builds character. The other destroys identity. You must learn the difference, because the moment you do, everything changes. Respect begins with you, not tomorrow. Not when people finally recognize your worth. Not when the world decides to applaud your efforts. It begins today. It begins the moment you look in the mirror and decide that your value is not up for negotiation. The world is always watching how you treat yourself. Read that again. The world is always watching how you treat yourself. People pay attention to the standards you set, even when they never admit it. They learn what they can get away with by observing what you continue to tolerate. If you laugh while someone humiliates you just to avoid conflict, they assume the disrespect doesn't bother you. If you stay silent every time your dignity is attacked, they believe silence is your language. If you keep returning after being hurt again and again, they begin to believe you will never leave. That is why your actions speak louder than your complaints. People don't always respect your words. They respect your boundaries. Boundaries are not walls built out of hatred. They are doors built with wisdom. They decide who has access to your heart, your time, your energy, and your peace. Every healthy life is built on healthy boundaries. Every meaningful relationship survives because two people understand the value of mutual respect. Without boundaries, love becomes control. Without boundaries, kindness becomes weakness in the eyes of those who refuse to appreciate it. Some people will tell you that saying no is selfish. Don't believe them. Sometimes no is the most loving word you can say to yourself. Every time you say yes while your heart is screaming no, you give away another piece of yourself. Slowly, almost without noticing, you begin to disappear. You become exhausted trying to satisfy everyone while forgetting your own needs. You smile on the outside while carrying pain on the inside. You keep giving, keep sacrificing, keep fixing everyone else, until one day you realize there is nothing left of you. You cannot pour into everyone while running empty yourself. Even a river must be fed before it can flow. Take care of your spirit, protect your mind, guard your peace. Respect yourself enough to speak when something is wrong. Respect yourself enough to walk away from conversations that only produce pain. Respect yourself enough to stop explaining why you deserve basic human decency. Respect is not something you should have to beg for. It is something every person deserves. You don't need anyone's permission to protect your soul. You don't need approval to choose peace over chaos. You don't need validation to know your worth. The strongest people are not the loudest people. They are not the ones constantly arguing, proving themselves, or seeking revenge. Real strength is quiet. Real strength is knowing when to stay calm. Real strength is refusing to let someone else's behavior determine your character. Sometimes the greatest victory is simply walking away with your dignity intact. Stand up, not with anger, with conviction. Not with bitterness, with wisdom, not with revenge, with self-respect. Because when you truly value yourself, everything begins to change. You stop chasing people who only appreciate your presence when it benefits them. You stop lowering your standards to fit into places where you were never meant to belong. You stop apologizing for protecting your peace. And as you grow, people are forced to make a choice. They can rise to meet the standard you've set, or they can lose access to the person you used to be. Remember this every single day. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of what you are willing to tolerate. The moment you refuse to accept disrespect from strangers, from friends, or even from family, you send a powerful message without saying a single word. You are teaching the world how to treat you, and once you choose self-respect over people-pleasing, you don't just change your relationships, you change your life. Many people confuse love with sacrifice. They believe that the more pain they endure, the more love they are showing. They convince themselves that staying silent is kindness, that accepting disrespect is loyalty, and that constantly giving pieces of themselves away is proof of a good heart. But listen carefully, sacrifice is noble, bondage is not. There is a difference between serving people with love and surrendering your dignity to keep them happy. There is a difference between forgiving someone and allowing them unlimited opportunities to wound you. Those are not the same thing. You can love someone deeply and still refuse to let them mistreat you. Those two truths can exist together. In fact, they should. Because real love is never an excuse for repeated disrespect. Love does not erase accountability. Love does not cancel consequences. Love does not demand that one person keeps bleeding while the other refuses to change. If someone truly loves you, they should care about the impact of their actions. They should care when their words hurt you. They should care when their behavior damages your trust. Love is not just about emotions. Love is responsibility. Love is honor. Love is choosing every day to protect what has been entrusted to you. Never become someone's emotional punching bag simply because you care about them. Never believe that suffering in silence makes you stronger. It doesn't. It only teaches people that your pain has no price. If every conversation leaves you broken, pay attention. If every phone call fills you with anxiety before you answer, pay attention. If every visit steals your peace instead of restoring it, pay attention. If every achievement you celebrate is met with criticism instead of encouragement, pay attention. Your spirit is trying to tell you something. Partals speak louder than promises. Anyone can say, "I'm sorry." Anyone can promise, "I'll do better." Words are easy. Change is difficult. Some people apologize just enough to keep access to your life. Then they repeat the same behavior again. The cycle continues because they have learned one dangerous lesson, that your forgiveness has no boundaries. Do not mistake repeated apologies for genuine transformation. Transformation is visible. Transformation changes habits. Transformation produces consistency. If nothing changes, then nothing has changed. Stop confusing repeated pain with loyalty. Loyalty should never require you to lose yourself. Loyalty without respect becomes slavery. You were never created to live under the weight of someone else's unhealthy behavior. You were never called to carry emotional burdens that belong to people who refuse to heal themselves. Healthy relationships help you grow. They challenge you to become better. They speak truth with kindness. They celebrate your victories without jealousy. They correct you without humiliating you. They protect your peace instead of constantly disturbing it. Real relationships produce growth, not fear, not anxiety, not emotional confusion, not constant exhaustion. If you are always walking on eggshells, always afraid of saying the wrong thing, always preparing yourself for the next insult or disappointment, that is not the freedom love was meant to bring. Love should inspire courage, not fear. Love should create safety, not insecurity. Love should strengthen your soul, not slowly drain the life from it. Protect your heart, not because it is weak, because it is valuable. Your heart carries your dreams, your faith, your joy, your purpose. Do not hand those treasures to people who treat them carelessly. Guard your peace with wisdom. Extend grace, but do not abandon discernment. Forgive freely, but never surrender your self-respect. Love generously, but never at the cost of your identity. Remember this. The strongest love is not love without limits. The strongest love is love guided by wisdom, truth, and self-respect. The moment you understand that boundaries do not destroy love, they protect it, you stop living in emotional bondage and start living in the freedom you were always meant to have. Forgive, absolutely forgive. Carry no hatred. Carry no bitterness. Carry no desire for revenge. But understand this, forgiveness is for freedom, not foolishness. Too many people believe forgiveness means pretending nothing happened. They believe that if they truly forgive, they must ignore the pain, erase the memory, and allow the same person unlimited opportunities to hurt them again. That is not wisdom, that is surrender. Forgiveness removes the poison from your heart. It does not remove wisdom from your mind. When you forgive, you release yourself from the prison of anger. You stop allowing yesterday's pain to control today's peace. You stop carrying the heavy burden of resentment that slowly steals your joy, your focus, and your purpose. Forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself because it frees your spirit from the weight of what someone else chose to do. But freedom does not mean forgetting every lesson. It means learning from it. You can pray sincerely for someone and still keep your distance. You can hope they find healing and still refuse to let them disrupt yours. You can wish them success and still choose not to give them another opportunity to break your trust. Those two things can exist together. Compassion and wisdom, grace and boundaries, mercy and discernment. Never let anyone convince you that protecting your peace means your forgiveness wasn't real. Sometimes the healthiest decision is distance. Healing requires memory, not to hold grudges. Not to replay every painful moment, not to build walls around your heart, but to recognize patterns. Pain becomes wisdom only when you learn from it. Some lessons cost too much to learn twice. If someone lies to you over and over, believe the pattern. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, believe the pattern. If someone keeps apologizing without changing, believe the pattern. People reveal themselves through consistency, not promises. Words may comfort you for a moment. Talks reveal the truth. Faith does not ask you to ignore reality. Faith gives you the courage to face reality without losing hope. Faith is not pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Faith is trusting that God can guide you through difficult decisions with wisdom, strength, and peace. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is walk away from what continues to wound your spirit. Some people only begin to value your presence after they experience your absence. When your constant availability disappears, they finally realize what they took for granted. When your silence replaces endless explanations, they begin to hear the echoes of their own behavior. When your boundaries become firm, they suddenly understand the value of respect. But whether they change or not, that is not your responsibility. You are not responsible for fixing every broken person. You are not responsible for carrying burdens that belong to someone else. You are not responsible for sacrificing your purpose so others can remain comfortable in their unhealthy habits. Your responsibility is obedience to your purpose. Your responsibility is becoming the person God created you to be. Your responsibility is protecting the life you've been entrusted with. Protect what God entrusted to you, your mind. Guard it from voices that constantly fill it with doubt, your peace. Protect it from unnecessary chaos and endless conflict, your future. Don't allow today's toxic relationships to rob tomorrow's opportunities, your calling. Don't let anyone distract you from the purpose placed inside your heart. These are priceless gifts. They deserve to be protected, not carelessly handed to people who repeatedly treat them as though they have no value. Remember this. Forgiveness is a decision, but trust is earned. Grace can be given freely, but access should be given wisely. You honor God not only by loving others, but also by becoming a faithful steward of the life, the peace, and the purpose He has placed in your hands. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is believing that you can forgive completely while having the courage to never return to what God is leading you away from. There is a prison more dangerous than steel bars. You cannot see its walls. You cannot touch its chains. Yet millions of people spend their entire lives trapped inside it. It's called approval, the desperate need for someone else to tell you that you are enough. The exhausting habit of changing yourself just to avoid rejection. The endless chase for acceptance from people who have already decided they will never give it. Think about how many dreams have died because someone was afraid of what others might think. How many opportunities were missed because someone needed permission to believe in themselves. How many voices stayed silent because they feared criticism more than they desired purpose. That is the prison of approval, and it is stealing lives every single day. You change your clothes, your dreams, your personality, your voice, your beliefs. You hide your opinions, you lower your standards, you silence your convictions. You become whoever people expect you to be, hoping that maybe this version of yourself will finally be accepted. Still, it isn't enough because the problem was never you. The truth is, some people made up their minds about you long before you ever had a chance to prove yourself. No amount of changing will satisfy people who benefit from your insecurity. No amount of people-pleasing will win over those who only feel comfortable when you stay small. Stop carrying the burden of trying to impress people who refuse to appreciate you. That burden was never yours to carry. Some people cannot celebrate your growth because your growth exposes their comfort. When they see your discipline, they are reminded of the excuses they continue to make. When they see your courage, they are confronted by the fears they refuse to overcome. When they see your consistency, they are forced to face their own lack of commitment. Your success becomes a mirror. And not everyone likes what they see. Your success reminds them of their excuses. Your discipline reminds them of their laziness. Your confidence challenges their insecurity. That is why some people criticize instead of congratulate. They mock instead of encourage. They minimize instead of celebrate. Not because you're failing, because you're rising. People who are comfortable staying where they are often become uncomfortable, watching you become who you're meant to be. Do not let their discomfort become your limitation. Never shrink your light so insecure people feel brighter. The world does not need a smaller version of you. It needs the strongest, wisest, most authentic version of you. Stop apologizing for your growth. Stop apologizing for your standards. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Stop apologizing because your life is changing. Growth will always make some people uncomfortable. Let it. You were not born to fit inside someone else's limitations. You were not created to spend your life asking for permission to become who God designed you to be. You were born with purpose, with gifts, with a calling that cannot be fulfilled by copying someone else's life. Your assignment is too important to waste trying to satisfy everyone around you. Walk boldly. Even if nobody claps, walk with confidence. Even if nobody agrees, walk with integrity. Even if others choose shortcuts, walk faithfully. Even if nobody understands the path you're taking, remember this. The people who laugh at your vision today may one day admire the life that vision created. But whether they cheer for you or criticize you should never determine whether you keep moving forward. Because purpose is bigger than popularity. Truth is bigger than approval. Character is bigger than reputation. At the end of your life, you will not answer for the opinions of other people. You will answer for what you did with the gifts, opportunities, and purpose you were given. So stop living for applause that fades. Stop chasing validation that never satisfies. Stand firm in your values. Trust the path placed before you. And keep walking with courage. Because the approval that matters most is not found in the crowd. It is found in the quiet confidence of knowing you stayed true to who you were created to become. Protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. People often think peace is simply the absence of conflict. It is not. Peace is the foundation upon which everything meaningful is built. It is the quiet strength that allows you to think clearly when life becomes uncertain. It is the calm that helps you make wise decisions when emotions are running high. It is the inner confidence that keeps you standing when everything around you is shaking. Everything meaningful begins with peace. Clear thinking, strong decisions. Healthy relationships, a focused mind, a faithful heart. Without peace, everything suffers. Your judgment becomes clouded. Your energy disappears. Your purpose begins to fade beneath the weight of constant stress and unnecessary drama. That is why protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Too many people keep inviting chaos into their lives simply because it comes from familiar faces. They tolerate disrespect because it comes from family. They accept manipulation because it comes from old friends. They excuse toxic behavior because they have known someone for years. But familiarity does not make dysfunction healthy. A familiar storm is still a storm. A familiar wound still hurts. A familiar source of pain still steals your joy. Stop inviting chaos just because it wears a familiar face. Stop answering every insult. Not every accusation deserves your response. Not every misunderstanding deserves your explanation. Not every battle deserves your attention. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is wisdom. The strongest person in the room is often the one who refuses to waste energy proving themselves to people committed to misunderstanding them. Stop attending every argument. You do not have to show up every time someone invites you into conflict. Some arguments are traps. They are designed to steal your time, your focus, and your emotional strength. Protect your energy. Your future needs it more than unnecessary debates. And stop carrying guilt for choosing healing. You are not a bad person because you chose peace. You are not selfish because you finally set healthy boundaries. You are not wrong because you decided your mental and emotional well-being matters. People who benefited from your silence may accuse you of changing. They're right. You changed. You became healthier. You became wiser. You became stronger. And that is something you should never apologize for. Peace is expensive, not because it costs money, because it requires courage. The courage to walk away from what no longer serves your purpose. The courage to say, enough is enough. The courage to disappoint people who expected you to keep sacrificing your happiness for their comfort. The courage to choose yourself without becoming selfish. That kind of courage transforms lives. Choose peace, again and again and again. Not just once when it is easy, Choose it every single day. Choose it when people misunderstand you. Choose it when criticism comes your way. Choose it when walking away feels painful. Choose it because your future is worth protecting. Every day you protect your dignity, you become stronger. Every day you refuse disrespect, you become freer. Every day you refuse to let bitterness control your heart, you become wiser. Every day you choose discipline over emotional reactions, you become more powerful. Every day you choose purpose over people pleasing, you become the person you were always meant to be. Never forget that your peace is one of God's greatest gifts. Guard it with wisdom, feed it with faith, strengthen it through prayer, discipline, and gratitude. Refuse to let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. Refuse to allow toxic voices to become louder than the truth inside your heart. One day, you will look back and realize that the greatest victory was never proving your worth to people who doubted you. The greatest victory was protecting your soul, staying faithful to your purpose, and refusing to let anyone steal the peace that God placed within you, and that no one can ever take away.